In today's video, I ask how important is fluff in wargaming to you? Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. So the subject for today's video came from a comment left by Kablams in my video on is Warhammer 40k moving too fast? Now he mentioned that the new codices are being released to make the armies feel fully thematic again. For example, by including chapter specific tactics. So does that mean that the updated codex is more about the fluff and the theme of the game, but less about the game itself? That made me think, how important is fluff in wargaming to me, and by comparison to other people who play wargames? Now there's no denying that Warhammer 40,000 is probably the daddy of all wargaming when it comes to theme and fluff. The background is just huge, and no matter how much you read, there always seems to be more of it. Now GW have obviously spent a lot of time, a lot of effort, and without a doubt a lot of money to create this world. The Horus Heresy novels have spawned the game, for example, and not the other way around. The world of the Dark Millennium has covered the stories from all angles of all of the different races, and this gives everyone, no matter what army you play, some inspiration to draw upon to build and theme your army. Now they've also left enough gaps in the fluff to allow some creative license, so you can build your own chapters for Space Marines, or to give your orcs a reason to be fighting against the Necrons and forging your own narrative. So my assumption is that the theme and the fluff is a huge part of the hobby for the vast majority of Warhammer 40,000 players. So if you then swing the game in completely the other way, you'll have historical games, such as Flames of War or Bolt Action. Now these are based on actual real world events, and as such the companies have the worlds created for them. There's so much information on World War I and World War II, for example, that if you're interested in the background, you're spoiled for choice or sources of information. This isn't fluff, of course, this is actual history. Somewhere in the middle you have everything else, games like Star Wars X-Wing and The Walking Dead All-Out War, which are IP based, and as such the fluff has already been developed by the source material. If you want to know why Rick Grimes only has one hand in the newer models, or why his son wears a sheriff's hat, then there's a host of graphic novels for you to binge upon. You then have new games like Guild Ball, Malifaux, Warpath and Kings of War. These games have had to create their own worlds from scratch. And I'll mention these games in particular because of how they approach fluff and the background of their games. Guild Ball and Malifaux started out with background or fluff in mind. They understood that in order to survive in an already saturated skirmish game market, it was more than the rules and models that would set them apart to compete for your hobby dollars. Both companies created a world around their games in order to draw you in and build the theme around. In comparison, Kings of War and initially Warpath launched with just rules and miniatures. Kings of War is a really tight rule set, originally only on 4 pages and was written by the famous Alessio Cavatore. The game was a direct comparison to Warhammer Fantasy Evolved. The lure of easy to learn rules and cheaper models, however, wasn't enough, and people moaned about the fact that there just was no fluff. They couldn't get interested in the game because it was just 2 generic armies fighting for some unknown reason. Mantic, to their credit, began to flesh out the world of Mantica, and the background has grown to the point where they now have a summer campaign which will shape the future of Mantica, and a source book coming out later in the year. They learned from this, and when launching Warpath for version 2, they launched with a source book which helped shape the world. Now I always thought that fluff and background wasn't really important to me. I like painting and I like playing, but I don't really read the background so much. However, subconsciously, I think it shapes the way I think about a game or my army choice, and it definitely influences what I buy. After all, if we weren't mentally invested in our games, we may as well just push counters around the board. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.